Hey everyone, Ben with Food Facts here. I'm in Highland Village, Texas at Awesome Times with owner-operator Jerry Lisby. Morning, Jerry. How you doing?
Good morning. Good. I'm doing great today.
Hey, well, I appreciate you having us in
Absolutely.
for this interview. As the viewers know, it's second Food Facts interview here, and we're doing it with a local restaurant in my hometown here. So really excited to dive into it. First question: where did the tater tot come from? How did that become kind of the face?
But we had a friend that's just down the way at What's on Tap.
Okay.
And we started talking about, he didn't really have food there. He did some little things like pretzels and stuff. And I was like, man, I'd love to come cook there some night. And he just said, why don't you come on a pint night when we have our biggest count? This is pre-COVID when, his pint nights they were massive. And so I'd pick menu items and something that I could do that could be fresh and hot and you could change a lot were tots.
Sure.
I was like, yeah, we'll just do like fun tots. So we did a different tot every Wednesday. And then it got to the point where it was going way too long. I was like, I can't figure out a different tot. And I still have my spreadsheet, and it's probably 15 or 20 tabs of every single tot that I've made. And so every week's like, what are you going to do this week? I'm like, well, I wasn't planning on doing tots, but now I have to.
Right.
And so we would do crazy stuff like, chicken teriyaki and pulled pork. And I would spend hours prepping for these things. I'd smoke pork in the backyard, and then I would research recipes. And, it's just I was selling maybe I'd have 30 tickets all night, which was fine with me because, I'd get a couple of free beers and
right.
I was still making enough money to cover what we were doing. It wasn't a very big money maker, but it was just a fun experience. It was a good place to go hang out. You see people every day, and that kind of gave me the restaurant experience too. Like, oh, this is cool.
Right.
Creating stuff, because at other restaurants I was making other people's food for people. Here I was kind of making my own stuff for people, and they're really, people really seemed to enjoy it and had fun with it. And so tots kind of, like when we opened this, it was just like a no-brainer. We're going to have some loaded tots. And
it's in the history.
Yeah.
Been bringing my daughter and wife to Awesome Times for a few months now. We really enjoy it. It's a great local spot. But I noticed the first time I walked in here, you've got a New Mexico flag up on the wall, and I knew that there was a connection to New Mexico right away. And I know it goes deeper than the New Mexico flag, but let's start there. Can you tell us just about the beginnings in New Mexico and where you started and where you're from?
Sure. So I grew up, I was born here in Texas, in Fort Worth, but I grew up in New Mexico, eastern New Mexico, in a little town called Clovis. Lived there through high school. And that's where I really started the cooking phase of my life, was in New Mexico.
You grew up in Clovis, and then you moved to college down in Portales, right?
Right.
But you weren't studying culinary or anything in Portales. No. So tell us what you were studying down there.
So when I first went to college, I was a geology major. And so I was really close. I think I was right out of a semester and a field camp away from graduating with a geology degree. But I was involved in the food service. That's how I paid my way through college. And I really started to like business and the food service, and just switched that late in my career.
So it was a last minute switch at college.
Yes.
We hear that story quite often, right? Moving into the food industry was not the plan. What was the original goal?
I just wanted to get a business degree and start working in business. I thought, I really enjoyed the operations at the food service. I didn't really see it becoming a career in food. It was just, I enjoyed the business aspect of inventory and numbers. So
I mentioned earlier, it's not just the New Mexico flag that jumps out to you here at Awesome Times. The food is awesome, but you have one of the items that I consider the pinnacle of my food pyramid, which is green chili.
Right. Yes.
In a lot of your menu items. So
a ton, yeah.
Let's take a moment and make a nod to green chili, and tell us where you get your green chili, how you use it in your menu. Let's talk about that for a minute.
So, growing up in New Mexico, my grandparents had some really good friends that lived in it's called Bosque Farms near Albuquerque. And they had about 2 acres, 3 acres, and they would grow chili every year. And it was a small little place, so they would invite family and friends to go up and help process the chili. So they pick the chili, we'd roast it, and it'd be like a 3-day thing. We'd stay at this lady's house, and that's where I kind of became familiar with green chili. And I was probably 7 or 8 at the time. And I just remember the smells and the taste, and little did I know that how much that would be a part of my life going forward. And green chili in New Mexico is really, it's a staple. It's on every menu. You go to Pizza Hut, you can get green chili. You go to anywhere you go, you can get. And a lot of places in New Mexico build their menus around green chili. You know, when it's in September, you know, you start getting that craving and
the smells from the roasters.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we have there. Luckily here, there was a guy who lives locally, who's from New Mexico, found a big chili roaster on Facebook, I believe it was. It was before we opened here. He was like, "I want to buy it." He goes, "One of these days when you open, we should roast chili." And I was like, "Yeah, that'd be great." I didn't really think much of it because it's hard to put all that together.
Sure.
But sure enough, he was dedicated enough and kind of just kept going, and he bought the roaster. And that first year we opened, he drove to Denny, New Mexico in the morning and picked up 300 pounds of chili, brought it back, and the next 2 days we spent roasting it here and selling it to customers. And so it's fun to be able to share that with people who it's not a part of their lives, really.
Right.
So we have, in this area, generally is a huge melting pot. Providing the green chili and talking about it is fun for me because I grew up with it, and
right.
I want everybody to experience the flavors. And some people it's too hot, but we've converted a lot of fans, I believe, to the green chili. So the way we get it, we order it from our food supplier, and we get it from Bueno Foods in Albuquerque. And we use the autumn roast, which is a later season chili when it starts to turn red. It's like that late September chili. And we use a hot. So we take those two, and we already get it pre-diced. We get those two, and we add like cumin and onions and garlic and a little bit of butter, and we cook it on the flat top until it's kind of charred a little bit and kind of gets, I call it dank. It's just thick, and like just the flavor really grows after we do that. And so we use that as a base for everything else. So we put it in the queso and the green chili mac and cheese, and I mean everything. We get people now asking for it on quesadillas and burgers.
I was about to say, for the viewers, if you come into Awesome Times, you can ask for it on anything.
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah. You can just get a big bowl of it if you want. But
so if you're in for a green chili fix, which I hit that occasionally, being from growing up in New Mexico myself, you can come to Awesome Times and get your green chili fix. You guys might be the like North Texas green chili spot at some point.
Maybe there's not a lot of people doing New Mexico, so we're working our way into getting some more traditional New Mexico stuff.
Awesome. So I look forward to that.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
When you made the transition from New Mexico to Texas, tell us about that. When did you make that jump? What restaurants did you start getting involved in? And kind of what took you on the path?
Okay. So when I graduated from college, I had a really good friend who moved to Texas for a job in human resources, and she was working for an online grocery retailer. So my first job in Texas, sort of a corporate job, was at a place called grossworks.com, which was really ahead of their time. It was a home delivery service for groceries, and so I was a buyer for them, and I bought poultry and meat goods and kind of learned the system there.
Then you moved into a big restaurant locally and started with barbecue. Is that right?
Right. I'd always been into barbecue. I did a lot of I cooked it at home. I made the travels. I've been to Austin and met pitmasters, and just became like a student of the genre. It was, cook it at home, and you really figure it out. And it was basically like a hobby at the time. And then here locally, my son was going to school with Marty Bryant's son, who, I don't know if anybody's ever heard of Marty B's. It's a little place here in town.
Yeah.
Yeah. So our kids went to
Everyone in North Texas will know what Marty B's. For those who are watching from outside of North Texas, it's a destination. It's a restaurant, a live music venue. It's a spot. So sorry, keep going.
Yes. So our boys went to kindergarten together, and I always noticed him wearing his cod patch chef coat. And of course, I was like, oh, what does he do? So we just kind of struck up a friendship, and I would talk to him about cod patch, and because I'd see him in advance because our kids went to the same things. And eventually we got going, and one day I remember sitting down with him because I noticed he had moved on from cotton patch, and I remember sitting down with him. I texted him. I said, hey, what are you doing now that you're not at cotton patch? He goes, well, had a little consulting business, and he was consulting for some folks. And so he goes, why don't you just meet me somewhere? I think I asked to meet him, and we sat down at Blue Goose and he laid out his whole plan for Marty B's.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, wow, man, that's unbelievable. You know, to me, it was a little crazy. It was huge. I mean, he told the whole thing. I'm like, and then actually, I think I always tell people this. I think I was more excited than he was at the time. I was like, this is unbelievable. And I had no idea about being a part of it. I was at the height of my really wanting to get into the business again. And finally one day after I think I talked his ear off, he's like, you should, come work with me. You know a lot about, because I had a little bit of experience in food and I knew about barbecue and he just wanted to do barbecue. And he talked to me about it a couple of times and I talked to my wife and, I was like, I can't leave my corporate job with all the safety and the vacation. And it was actually her idea. She's like, you've got to go do it. It's what you're meant to do. I was like, all right. So we just kind of took that jump, and luckily we did. It was a great opportunity. He's a master of his craft, and I learned a ton of stuff from him. This place really wouldn't be possible without a lot of people, and he's one of the biggest ones. He's, just watching him, how he ran his day-to-day operation.
Okay.
was really good.
That's awesome.
Really, he's really good at what he does.
So shout out to Marty B there.
Yeah.
You were doing mostly barbecue there at Marty B's.
I was a pit master there for almost 5 years.
Wow, you check the green chili box and then you check the barbecue box.
Right.
So it's like, this place is my dream. But moving into Awesome Times, you opened this not long after 2020, not long after the pandemic.
Right.
Which is not, at least from what everyone on the outside saw, that's a risky time to open a restaurant.
Right.
Were you nervous about that? What was that transition
It was kind of coming off the tail end. Things were opening up. Things were a lot better. I think the biggest wait we ever had was just the pipe for the fire suppression system.
Okay.
That took us like 2 weeks. There was 0 in Texas, and our contractor, who was amazing, just found some. And so instead of it pushing us off a month or two, we got it like in a day.
Okay.
And so we had some amazing folks working on this place. We got really lucky. There's most of the people that built Marty B's, I just had a relationship with those guys from being out there. They came in, and I think they're a little more vested than most just because they knew me and they knew that what we were trying to do here and what we're trying to build. And I think I can count maybe 5 days, and 2 were weather related, where somebody wasn't here working.
Okay.
Which it's unheard of in the field, because usually there's multiple projects going on, but man, we signed a lease and they started cutting concrete an hour later.
That's awesome. So you've touched on community. It's obvious when you walk into this place that it's a community spot. There's fan gear from the local high school, Marcus.
Right.
There's obviously a connection to community. So what is it? Is that part of why you opened the place, was to be a member of the community? What's driving the community piece here?
100%. Like, so that's my better half. Like, my wife is a teacher by heart, and my vision was the food. Her vision was community.
Yeah.
And so it really came together, and she takes care of that part. Like, she gets people here. She has that give back spirit. And so we do events for people all the time. And that's just something that she's very passionate about. We do as much as we can when we can. It's hard to turn people down when they need help or ask for stuff. So,
and you've made it a point to hire within the community too.
Yes, our front of house, when we first opened, my wife's like, we're going to hire young kids, and I'm like, you're crazy. I go, there's no way this is we can't put our whole future on high school kids running a place, especially if they've never had a job. I was like, we're not going to do that. But she said, hey, let's just give it a shot. And so a lot of these kids, they're from, like right now we have a soccer player from Geyer, a former baseball player from Flower Mound. We've got a current baseball player, Flower Mound football player. And all of they're just really good kids. And then, the neighborhood, they work really hard. They pay attention. They talk to customers. I think they enjoy coming to work. We've never had one issue with any of them, even though we had to teach them how to sweep or mop or do things. But it took like 3 days, and then after that, it was off of the races.
That's fantastic.
Really, we get so many compliments from like the older generation. They're like, these kids are so nice, and they come and talk to me, and they take my food. And so I think people are impressed with the way they handle themselves when they're here. They work really, really hard. I just can't believe we've never had an issue with any of them.
Yeah. Now, what in your eyes has been the biggest reward since opening Awesome Times?
I mean, meeting all the customers. We have so many great customers, and it's great to see. I mean, we still have new people coming in probably daily.
Yeah.
And we still see, it's good to see. I mean, we have customers who have met each other here and are friends now that hang out outside of the restaurant, and they meet here and have drinks or dinner with their families, and I mean that's probably the best part. And the fact that people really enjoy the food and they can see that the quality that we're putting out, that we're making stuff. It's all to me, it's the little things that matter. It's like we shred our own cheese. When in the big picture, everybody's like, well, what's the big deal there? It's like it makes a difference.
Sure.
It really does make a difference. We make our own pickles, we make our own croutons. Our meat's fresh, not frozen. It's a never ever product. No antibiotics, no hormones.
Yeah, even though you're buying the green chili from a producer, you're still taking it a step further to make it your own.
Oh yeah, there's all places who will buy green chili and just sprinkle it on something.
Right.
But we take it and we have our own recipe that we make it into our base.
Yeah, you have it's not a giant menu, but it's a diverse menu. You can get tater tots 1,000 different ways.
Right.
Wings.
Yeah.
Burgers, Philly steaks, and add and take away really anything.
Yeah, I tell people if we have it under the roof and we can make it happen, we'll do it.
Right.
And a few people have taken the challenge and done some really cool things. Like we have a BLT. Somebody wanted a blackened chicken breast on a BLT, and so we've added. We've done that for them. And luckily, our staff is willing to do that stuff and has that open mind to make things happen. So.
All right, Jerry, obviously with food facts, I'd be remiss not to ask you for a little food trivia. So have you got any for us today?
I do have one. Did you know that New Mexico produces close to 50,000 tons of green chili every single year?
I did not know that.
Yes, it's a huge amount.
Now you know. Hey, Jerry, thanks. I appreciate your time today, talking and learning about Awesome Times. If you're in Highland Village, Texas, highly recommend stopping by Awesome Times and trying out something on their menu. It's all great. I've had a ton of it, and highly recommend.